Hi, this is Pat Duckworth, the author of Hot Women Rock, How to Discover Your Midlife Entrepreneurial Mojo. And I've been so excited about today's interview because my interviewee is normally sitting in the interviewer's seat, but today he has to answer my questions. So my guest today was born and raised on the twin Caribbean islands of Trinidad and Tobago, and he loves great conversations. He wears many hats as a financial advisor, podcaster, entrepreneur, loving husband, and a dedicated father. His passion is to help you find yours, your own unique, real self, a concept he uncovered through his many conversations. It's successfully used to reconnect you to your hidden passion and purpose. We always love talking about purpose. Angel strongly believes that everyone can create their personal brand of success if they're willing to look inwards at their own uniqueness. We can talk more about that. So it is a big Hot Women Rock. Welcome to Engel Jones. Hi, Angel. How are you today?
Pat, thank you so much for having me on the show today. I'm doing very well. What about you?
I'm good, thank you. How does it feel being interviewed rather than interviewing?
Well, I can tell you it is a bit transformational, So I'm like, all right, Pat's going to lead this. So let me sit and relax and have fun with it because I always want you to have fun when you're having a conversation with me, right? So here I am. I'm all yours, Pat. Right? Have fun.
It's like doing ballroom dancing, if you get used to being the lead and then you have to be the other one, you've got to follow the steps, but
Yes.
we will have some fun. So
Wonderful.
tell me about your early life when you first left school. Did you go to college? What did you do?
Yeah, I was in a university, but I was studying like computers, so Microsoft Certified System Engineer. I did start a degree twice, right? And lasted like one semester each time
Oh.
I started. Once I dropped out to get married. And again, these are my reasons. I'm not saying it's great reasons, right? But I dropped out to get married the first time. And then the second time I started, I had my first son. And I just said to myself, oh, it's not worth the time. I was doing evening classes, right? So
Mm.
I would go to work on the mornings, do the 7 to 3 p.m., and then get home for what would be like an hour, which is me preparing to go to class again. And somewhere in between there, I decided it's not worth it. Like, I want to see my son grow. So, yeah. And in between that, I've been doing a ton of courses. So
Mm.
I've been I've been doing a lot of conferences and coaching sessions. Yeah.
So were you clear when you left school what you wanted to do, or were you just
No,
finding your way?
no. Like, I think I just found my way a couple of years ago, actually. I did not know what I wanted to be. I had some dreams throughout my life, like to be an astronaut, to be a scientist, to be an entrepreneur. Thankfully, I'm doing that now. But yeah, I did not know exactly what I wanted to do.
Yeah. And I think that's a message for everybody. You don't always know at the beginning. Some people are gifted with knowing from they were very young what they wanted to do. But some of us are just kind of finding our way through life experiences. So you've got to that stage, you're married, you've got your first child. What happens next?
I'm doing business, right? I'm running a business called the Upper Room Entertainment Center.
Oh.
It's designed for young individuals to have a space where they can chill that doesn't carry influences that could go with what I consider the possibility of negative entertainment, right? So it's like this place that young people can come, chill, play pool, right? But there's no smoking, no alcohol. It's this type of positive reinforcement. And it's really cool to see how things reconnect because that evolved into something called explosive expressions that we hosted there. And individuals of different talents would come and showcase their talents, be it art or singing or dancing or whatever they did. So that was going on around then. And then I had my second son. We sold that business. And then I started doing buying and selling of cars because I got bored, right? I've, I've always loved business. So I started buying, selling cars, and that didn't take me away from family life. Day job, they had, there was a strike action, a legal strike action of 3 months of no work.
Mm.
90 days. And during that time is when I encountered Dave Ramsey and his teachings of getting out of debt and how you can efficiently manage your finances without debt. It's like, what?
This is a new concept.
Yeah, this is new, right? And to think it was something that surrounded us in the Caribbean, but we started to walk away from in that, banks would finance things, and we started doing that. But there were the traits in the Caribbean that you can see. Like there's something called the susu in the Caribbean where people pool money together and monthly they pay each individual from the money. So there were things like that. But of course, we're modern, right? So we're doing the modern things. And I played with that somewhat. And that opportunity, I would say, that experience that I had helped me to understand that you can live life without debt, but taking baby steps. And this is very integral because
Yeah.
that principle is what was transformed or what transitioned me into applying principles to goals, like having those podcast conversations,
Yeah. And
baby
I think
steps.
an important point you say about the baby steps, because sometimes where you want to be looks like too big a step and you get overwhelmed. But if you just keep taking the baby steps in the right direction, you eventually get there.
You do, and I'm living proof of that, that it's possible for anyone to do this.
So, where did those baby steps lead you?
So after getting out of that, I decided that I wanted to see Dave Ramsey's organization closer to see if it was a real thing, right? And because I was like, all right, this works for your personal expenses. Could it work for business? And they had this conference that I attended, and this is where on the timeline we're in 2013 now, and I attended that conference, and that was the first time I saw a corporate model like theirs, where community and purpose evolved into something that created a movement.
Mm.
So I jumped in there and I started selling the books locally. I started teaching. Amanda, my wife, and I went back in 2015, or was it 14? I think 15, to do a financial coaching master series course where we learned the system so that we can help others locally. So
Mm.
I did that for quite a bit, where I was helping other families, individuals get out of that. And then in 2017, I believe 16, my apologies, we're at 2016, that's when I stepped away from my day job for a year, for 1 year.
Yeah. So, what drew you to podcasting before we get on to the amazing thing that you next did? What drew you into doing that?
So while going through Dave Ramsey's stuff, I was listening to him. So what he would do is take his radio program, which was 3 hours every day, Monday to Friday, which is just fascinating that this guy is doing all of that time on the radio, right? But he took that and they created a podcast. So I started listening to his podcast, right? Which was a radio stream released after. And then I started, seeing other podcasts pop up. And there was this guy called John Lee Dumas. He had a podcast called Entrepreneur on Fire. Seeing the value of the podcast, I wanted to do what John Lee Dumas and Dave Ramsey was doing. At the same time, I was in a mastermind group and we were setting goals. And I'm very competitive, Pat.
I'm
So
competitive too.
so one of the goals I set at that time, and again, to answer your question accurately, I loved the medium of podcasting for the value it would bring via conversation and how easy it, well, at least I thought it would be easy to accomplish the platform, right? So I was at a studio. I did my podcast at a studio to begin with, but nothing compares to leaving a room, coming into another room, and having a conversation with someone all the way in the UK, right?
Yeah.
That's where podcasting really took off for me. So I set this goal, and in saying it now is when I actually feel like, what was this guy thinking? So I set this goal to have 1,585 conversations in 1 year, and I would take baby steps, and that would be, yeah, I could do that. So that was the goal. That was the part of choosing the podcast as a platform so that I could do as Zig Ziglar said, where if you help enough other people get what they want, you will get what you want. So it's like, all
Yeah.
right, I'll go help everyone share their message via conversations. Let's see if I get what I want. And like after 9 months, I had 76 episodes
Yeah.
recorded. And, and then I set another goal. I was going to give up. And we were at an event by this guy called Dan Miller, right?
Dan Miller. Okay.
Yeah, and it's there I heard the voice say, yeah, you should continue doing what you said you would do. And I started doing the yellow pad. I always have a trusty yellow pad here with me, right?
Yeah.
And, I was like, all right, this is what the goal would look like. And this is what I need to do. And yeah, it's doable. So I came back and the goal was 1,509 conversations in 3 months. And
It does sound a bit crazy, doesn't
it
it?
does, doesn't it? Huh? Thankfully, I can say what was accomplished. And what happened was I got 1,001 conversations in 3 months, which is, exactly what we shot for from the perspective of shoot for the moon. And sometimes you can fall on a star. And I feel as though I know I've fallen on stars, similar to you, Pat.
Yeah.
It just continues and continues. The power of
Yeah.
a conversation.
So this is Pat Duckworth, and I am talking to Engel Jones in Trinidad and Tobago, and he is the host of 12-Minute Convos, but he wears other hats as well as a financial advisor and as a coach. So tell us more. What did you learn from doing those 12-minute conversations?
Yeah, it was somewhere in between that yours popped up. I remember I was having a conversation with someone and it just popped how powerful you are. And then I'm speaking to this person, and of course, the trusty yellow pad is there. And by now, it's like 700 and something conversations. So I can actually write because I couldn't write when I started, right? I'm all zoned in, I'm podcasting, but I could actually write now. And I wrote, You Are. And then that built in, and then it developed into yours, your own unique real self. And that's what I found that not knowing what you want to do is okay.
Yeah.
But there are clues, breadcrumbs, if you would,
Mm.
across the sands of time that can connect you to who you are, the thing you do, the thing you love, the thing that your family saw that you love, how you represented your personal brand. And then I realized that this was gold. However, I needed to test it. So I have this thing where I believe that the only thing I can sell is the thing I believe in, like the
Mm.
thing I've tested. And of course, that hurts the bottom line sometimes in business. However, I've learned that if you want to have a legacy, this is part of the requirement.
Yeah.
So I tested it, and the following year, I set another podcast goal to have 800 conversations. Yeah. And I did it. Like this time, I did 813. Like I got it. Like, yeah, it's possible. This is something I love doing, and it's possible. And then that really evolved into the third year, which, my friend, we've realized how powerful it is. And this map behind me is the purpose of that, you know, to remind us, because we have friends that live in the US that have attempted to do this and they've not been successful. And I think it's related to, was that the thing you were supposed to do? Added to, is it the correct time for you to do it? And those two things, when put together, when you are able to understand this is something that is destined for me to do. And then the second part, is this the correct time? Yes, this is the correct time. I believe that's where the miracle happens.
Yeah, it's got to be the right intention, the right time, the right place. So you toured around America meeting some of those people that you'd interviewed. How was that?
Yeah, well, please do not forget Canada. So I say
Oh,
North America, right? Because I met an amazing person that I think you are familiar with, Jean Kay as well, right? In
oh
Canada,
yeah.
right?
Yeah,
So
beautiful.
yeah, so yeah, it was that was life transformational again, having the opportunity to experience people where they were, right, in their country, in their state, which
Yeah.
really differs across states, really, really differs. However, getting to see people and have conversations face to face was really an expansion of what was occurring already. And
There's no more fun than you can have than being your authentic self, living your purpose. So let's talk about that. I've talked about purpose right at the beginning. What part does purpose play in your life now, and how would you define your purpose?
one of the challenges I had coming through multiple businesses was that many books that I read said, hey, you need to have vision, mission, and values. And, you know, I was like, I was the guy who said, oh, we'll get to that after. Let's sell stuff, right? We'll get to that. But I think that really encapsulates purpose. It's really, really important to have that vision, mission, and values. Currently, well, before we started with We Give Hope,
Mm,
and our vision was that hope, which is the acronym for helping others pursue excellence. And that is my, again, vision for everything that I'm doing, that I can help others pursue excellence and create the platform that can develop and that's a big conversation of how we do that, because it's
yeah,
one thing to know who you are, but then it's another thing that you have conversations with other people that would respect who you are and then lift you up, and that's another conversation as well. And then I went into fun and sun. So my mission is to foster unlimited networks, right? But the sun part is sharing unique narratives. So sun and fun,
oh,
sharing unique narratives, which is what I get to do via the podcast, and the fun, yeah, fostering unlimited networks, and those are able now to really help the vision go forward, right? Not just
yeah.
for me, but for those that are in the network.
Yeah. So listening to some of the 12-minute conversations that you've had when you ask people about their stories, some of what they tell you is really amazing. I mean, inspirational stuff.
Yeah.
So, how would you define success now? What does success mean to you?
I was having a conversation with my barber today because it was necessary for me to go to the barber to speak with Pat today and be my best self, right? But we were talking about wealth and riches, and I think success for me is going after becoming wealthy. And I'd like to define what I believe wealth versus riches is. And I'm not sure if it's is or are. Yeah, I think it's is there, right? So that it is. And for me, being a wealthy individual is a person who is able to be with family and be with family.
Mm,
So that within that, it's necessary to have the money that's necessary to be with family and be present, because other than that, you'll be considering, what do I need to do to make money for my
Yeah.
family? But however, there's a point where you can make money, and it's necessary to to put a stop, to have a boundary, to say, okay, now it's time to be with my family, because
Mm.
I've found that it's very challenging to continuously be making money or
Yeah.
going after making money, and then decide, okay, once I reach here, then I'll start being with family. It just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. So for me, being wealthy is having that amount of money that gives me the opportunity to be with family, and deciding to be with family. And that's my wealth.
Yeah, and that's a really good definition of wealth. And I love the feeling of abundance. I think that's it's such an abundant word, isn't it, as well? So that feeling of abundance where you've got the love around you and the people around you, and the world feels great when you just tap into that feeling of
Yes.
abundance. I love an abundance of laughter as well. That
Yes.
makes me feel wealthy is when I can laugh a lot. That's
Yeah, it's great.
success too.
Yeah, again, we can then narrow down to other things, to goals that support all of this. But the roof of this thing is going to be, hey, the family. And for me, it's so important. So yeah, we don't want to be stuck up, right, just sitting there looking at each other. Like, we want to travel, right? And you can just keep going. However, the focus has to be that we're able to be there, and that, again, that comes into being mindful. It comes into being balanced, because then health
Yeah.
wise we need, and that's something big on my plate, Pat.
Mm.
So balancing mental, spiritual, career, physical, personal, financial, family, and that's the personal side. And then we have the business side, which is sales, administration, leadership, operation, and marketing. And those are all things that we have to continuously be balancing. And then there are the seasons, and it goes on. However, the roof of all of this is that I would be wealthy to be able to be with family, and, of course, have the financial stability to be with family.
So I've got a challenge for you.
Let's go.
So I want you to take that word wealthy and break that up the way you have yours.
Yeah, it's a great
Oh,
idea.
so what does wealthy stand for? There is
Yeah,
my challenge to you.
I will do that. Homework checked.
Yeah. So, if you had some top tips for new entrepreneurs, what would you say to them?
Explore the power of a conversation.
Yeah.
Show up for a conversation. I think it's going to be the currency of the future.
Mm.
For me, it has been. I cannot tell you how much of top tips I've gotten by having conversations that have been beneficial for my business. So I would suggest strongly, yes, there's the value of text, there's the value of email, there's the value of doing those things via all the different mediums that exist.
Mm.
I would suggest strongly look at having those conversations. And again, not a conversation with a hidden agenda. Show up for a conversation, and listen. It's the number one tip that this podcaster has to offer. Explore the power of a conversation.
Yeah, and the currency of authenticity. I think we're living in a time where people are really looking for authenticity. They've seen falseness, and what they're looking for is that genuine connection. And listening to your podcast, I hear that genuine connection in the conversations you're having. So, yeah, that would be my tip with to take, to build on what you've just said. When you're out meeting people, when you're networking, when you're talking to them in Skype calls or Zooms or whatever, be authentic, show up as who you really are. And that's the way that you make really good connections.
I agree with that.
I'd really love to know if people want to connect with you, if they want to listen to the podcast, give us all the links.
Yeah, sure. So you can check out 12minconvos.com. It's the best and fastest way to get in, connect with us, and listen to conversations of thousands and thousands of other individuals.
Fantastic. And are you still looking for more guests?
We are, but for the rest of this year, 2019, we're offline. Come 2020, we have some goals that we're going after. Again, the goal is to have 12,000 of these conversations before I reach the age of 40. So, yeah, we have, yeah.
I passed that so long ago, I don't even remember where that signpost is. But I've still got lots of goals ahead. So trust me, it never ends. There's always the next set of goals.
Look at that. I thought you were talking about the podcast count. I didn't even think about the age.
Stick with it as a podcast count. This has been such a joy. It's always great talking to you. And I just want to thank you for your time today and all of your wisdom.
You're welcome. My pleasure. Thank you. A pleasure I treasure, Pat.
Thank you. Take care.